The alarm blared through the dimly lit command center. Red lights flashed as crew members rushed to their stations. Commander Jack Porter gripped the edge of the tactical display, his knuckles white. On the main screen, the Rekian battlecruiser loomed large against the backdrop of Mars. Its crystalline hull sparkled in the sunlight, beautiful and deadly. "They're charging weapons," said Lieutenant Amy Wilson, her voice steady despite the fear evident in her eyes. Jack nodded. There was nothing else to say, nothing they could do. Earth's finest ship, the EDS Falcon, was a mere corvette by galactic standards. Its weapons wouldn't even scratch the Rekian hull. "Open a channel," Jack ordered. "Channel open, sir." Jack took a deep breath. "Rekian vessel, this is Commander Jack Porter of the Earth defense ship Falcon. The Mars colony is a civilian outpost with over 3,000 men, women, and children. We request that you—" The screen flickered as the Rekian commander appeared. His face was like polished obsidian, with glowing blue lines running across it in complex patterns. He didn't speak. He simply smiled, revealing teeth like cut diamonds. The connection cut off. "Sir, they've locked weapons on the colony's main dome," Amy reported. Jack closed his eyes briefly. "Record everything. Make sure Earth sees what happens here." The Rekian ship fired. A beam of blue-white energy lanced out, striking the transparent dome that protected the Mars colony from the planet's harsh atmosphere. For a moment, the dome's shields flared bright orange as they attempted to absorb the energy. Then they failed. The dome shattered. Emergency barriers slammed down throughout the colony, but they were designed for small breaches, not catastrophic failure. Jack watched in horror as sections of the colony went dark, life support failing as the Martian atmosphere rushed in. 3,000 people, whispered Communications Officer Ben Reeves. "Just gone." The Rekian ship didn't even bother with the Falcon. It simply turned and moved toward the smaller mining outpost on Phobos, Mars's moon. "Set course for Earth," Jack ordered, his voice hollow. "Maximum speed." "Sir?" Amy looked up in surprise. "We can't just leave." "Those are our orders, Lieutenant. If they engage us, we won't last 30 seconds. Earth needs to know what happened here." As the Falcon turned away from Mars, Jack added quietly, "And I'm not giving those monsters the satisfaction of another easy kill." This was the third colony the Rekians had destroyed this month. Ever since they had declared the Sol system a resource extraction zone 5 years ago, humanity had been pushed further and further into a corner. The trip back to Earth took 3 days. 3 days of silence on the bridge as the crew mourned. 3 days for Jack to prepare what he would say to the United Earth government. Earth came into view, a blue jewel against the blackness of space. Once the sight had filled Jack with pride. Now it only reminded him how vulnerable they were. The landing was routine. The debriefing was not. "They didn't even warn them this time," Jack told the grim-faced members of the Defense Council. "No demands, no ultimatums. They just opened fire on a civilian target." Admiral William Hayes, head of Earth's combined military forces, looked older than his 60 years. "The Galactic Federation has expressed concern about the incident," he said, his voice thick with disgust. "They've promised to look into the matter." "Look into it?" Jack couldn't keep the anger from his voice. 3,000 people are dead. "And what would you have us do, Commander?" asked Councilwoman Patricia Brown. "Go to war? The Rekians have technology we can barely understand, let alone match." Jack had no answer for that. After the meeting, Admiral Hayes asked Jack to stay behind. When everyone else had left, the old man locked the door and activated a privacy field. "What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level," Hayes said quietly. "Only 12 people on Earth know about this. You're about to be the 13th. Jack straightened. "Sir? Have you ever heard of Project Nemesis?" Jack shook his head. 5 years ago, when the Rekians first arrived, we started a secret research program. We gathered the best minds on the planet and gave them one mission: find a way to fight back. Hope stirred in Jack's chest for the first time in days. "And have they?" Instead of answering, Hayes handed him a tablet. Tomorrow, you're being reassigned. You'll report to this location. Jack looked at the screen. It showed coordinates in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. There's nothing there, sir. Hayes almost smiled. On the surface, no. But 3 miles down? That's where you'll find Dr. Olivia Grant and Project Nemesis. The next day, a small submarine took Jack from a nondescript fishing boat to the ocean floor. As they descended, the pilot explained that the facility was built into the side of an underwater mountain, hidden from satellites and sensors. The submarine docked with an airlock. When the door opened, Jack found himself facing a small, dark-haired woman with intense eyes and a lab coat. "Commander Porter," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Dr. Olivia Grant. Welcome to the most important project in human history." She led him through gleaming white corridors filled with scientists and engineers working with equipment Jack didn't recognize. "The Rekians think we're primitives," Dr. Grant explained as they walked. "They gave us just enough of their science to make us useful, but kept the real advancements to themselves. What they don't realize is that human physics was already exploring ideas their science never considered." They stopped at a massive window overlooking an enormous chamber. Inside was what looked like the skeleton of a ship, but unlike any vessel Jack had ever seen. Its hull was a deep, matte black that seemed to swallow light. "What am I looking at?" Jack asked. "The USS Defiance," Dr. Grant said with pride. "The first ship of what we hope will be many. It contains technology the Rekians believe is impossible." "What kind of technology?" "A singularity compression engine." Seeing Jack's confusion, she simplified. "A controlled black hole, Commander. We're harnessing the most destructive force in the universe and turning it into a power source and a weapon." Jack stared at the ship. "Is it safe?" Dr. Grant's smile faded. "Nothing worth doing ever is, but we're out of options. The Rekians won't stop until they've stripped our system bare. They see us as insects, Commander. Annoying but ultimately insignificant." She turned to face him fully. "But they've made a serious mistake. Throughout our history, whenever humans have been backed into a corner, we've fought back with everything we have. They think we're untouchable because we're beneath them." Her eyes flashed with determination. "It's time to show them how wrong they are." Jack looked back at the ship, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. "When will it be ready?" he asked. 3 months, Dr. Grant replied. "And you, Commander Porter, are going to help us test it." For the first time since watching Mars, Colony Die, Jack smiled. The Rekians had no idea what was coming. 3 months passed quickly in the underwater base. Jack spent his days learning about the USS Defiance and training with the crew who would serve on it. At night, he studied the Rekians, trying to understand their weaknesses. The day finally came when Admiral Hayes arrived for the final inspection. Jack stood beside Dr. Grant as they waited for the Admiral's submarine to dock. "Are you ready?" Jack asked her. Dr. Grant nodded, dark circles under her eyes showing how little she had slept in the past weeks. "The ship is ready. I'm not sure I'll ever be." The Admiral stepped through the airlock, his uniform crisp despite the long journey. "Dr. Grant, Commander Porter," he greeted them. "Show me what my money bought." They led him through the facility to the main hangar bay where the USS Defiance now stood complete. Its black hull seemed to bend light around it, making it hard to focus on directly. "Impressive," Admiral Hayes said. "But will it work?" "We've run every test possible in this facility," Dr. Grant answered. "The singularity core is stable. The gravitational shields are functioning at 120% of projected capacity. The only thing we haven't tested is the main weapon because, well," she gestured at the underwater base around them, "because firing a directed gravitational weapon down here would crush us all," Hayes finished for her. "I understand." Jack led them inside the ship. Unlike the bright white corridors of Earth vessels, the Defiance's interior was all gunmetal, gray and black surfaces. Screens glowed with blue light at various stations. "We've kept the crew complement small," Jack explained. 50 people total. The ship's systems are heavily automated. In the engine room, Dr. Grant showed Hayes the heart of the ship, a sphere of perfect darkness surrounded by a complex web of glowing blue containment fields. The singularity, she said with pride. A black hole the size of a marble, but with the mass of a small mountain. The gravitational energy we can harness from it is nearly limitless. Hayes looked concerned. And if the containment fails? Then we all get compressed to the size of atoms, Dr. Grant said matter-of-factly. But it won't fail. The system has redundancies built on redundancies. On the bridge, Jack introduced Hayes to the core command crew. Lieutenant Lisa Johnson would serve as second in command. Frank Morrison was the chief engineer. Chris Bennett would handle weapons. When can you launch? Hayes asked, looking around at the sleek, advanced bridge. Jack looked at Dr. Grant, who nodded. Tomorrow, Jack said. We're ready now. Good, Hayes said grimly, because we just lost contact with our outpost on Europa. The Rekians are moving deeper into the system. The next day, as final preparations were made, Dr. Grant pulled Jack aside. There's something you should know before you leave, she said, quietly. The Defiance isn't just a weapon or a deterrent, it's a proof of concept. Jack raised an eyebrow. Meaning, the real Project Nemesis isn't just this ship, it's what comes after. She handed him a data pad. Hidden throughout the solar system are automated facilities. Once the Defiance proves successful in combat, these facilities will activate and begin constructing more ships. Within 6 months, Earth could have a fleet of 50 vessels like this one. Jack stared at her. Why wasn't I told this before? Compartmentalization, she said simply. If you were captured and questioned, you couldn't reveal what you didn't know. Jack handed the pad back to her. And now? Now you need to know, because if something happens to this ship, if you're forced to self-destruct, you need to make sure the data on its performance reaches Earth. The entire project depends on it. Jack nodded solemnly. I understand. The launch was scheduled for midnight. The massive underwater doors opened, revealing the dark Atlantic above. The Defiance rose slowly, water streaming off its black hull. On the bridge, Jack sat in the captain's chair. Status report. All systems green, reported Chief Engineer Morrison. The Singularity Core is stable and generating full power. Weapon systems online, added Lieutenant Bennett. Communications ready, said Lieutenant Johnson. Jack took a deep breath. Take us up. The Defiance broke the surface of the ocean, water cascading off its hull. For a moment it hung there, visible to anyone watching. Then its cloaking systems engaged, bending light around the ship until it vanished from sight. Set course for Jupiter, Jack ordered. Maximum speed. The journey to Jupiter would normally take months. With the Defiance's singularity drive, they arrived in just under 3 days. They found the Rekian mining fleet exactly where intelligence had said they would be. Surrounding Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. 7 massive Rekian ships hung in space, their crystalline hulls glittering. In the faint sunlight, they had drills extending down to Europa's surface, extracting the moon's water ice for their own purposes. They're not even trying to hide, Lieutenant Johnson said with disgust. They don't think they need to. Jack studied the tactical display. The large ship in the center, that's their command vessel. The others are mining ships with light defenses. What are your orders, Captain? Asked Bennett. Jack had thought about this moment for months. Part of him wanted revenge for Mars, wanted to destroy all 7 ships. But that wasn't the mission. We need to make a statement, Jack said. But we also need to leave witnesses. Target the 2 mining vessels closest to us. Full power to the gravitational lance. Bennett nodded, his fingers dancing over the weapons console. Targets locked. Lance charged and ready. Disengage cloaking, Jack ordered. Let them see us before we fire. The Defiance shimmered into visibility. For a moment, nothing happened as the Rekians registered the appearance of an unknown ship. We're being scanned, Johnson reported. Now, Jack said quietly. Fire. The gravitational lance didn't fire a visible beam. There was no light, no sound. But space itself seemed to bend between the Defiance and the first Rekian mining ship. The effect was immediate and devastating. The crystalline hull of the mining vessel suddenly compressed inward, as if squeezed by a giant invisible hand. Cracks spread across its surface before it imploded completely, crushing itself into a ball of twisted metal and crystal. "Second target," Jack ordered. The same happened to the second ship, slightly slower as its crew tried desperately to raise shields. It didn't help. "Open a channel to the Rekian command ship," Jack said. "Let's introduce ourselves." The main screen flickered, showing a Rekian commander whose obsidian face was twisted with shock and rage. "This is Captain Jack Porter of the Earth Defense Ship Defiance," Jack said calmly. "You are trespassing in Earth territory. You have 20 minutes to retreat beyond Saturn's orbit, or we will destroy the rest of your fleet," the Rekian commander sputtered in his own language before the translator caught up. You cannot. This is impossible. Human ships cannot." 19 minutes and 40 seconds, Jack replied. "I suggest you start moving." He cut the transmission. "Do you think they'll run?" Johnson asked. Jack watched the tactical display as the Rekian ships frantically began to power up their engines. "Yes," he said. "They'll run. And they'll tell everyone what they saw here today." He allowed himself a small smile. "The days of humanity being untouchable are over." Word of the USS Defiance's victory spread faster than Jack had expected. By the time they returned to Earth orbit 3 days later, the entire planet was buzzing with the news. Someone on the Rekian side had leaked video of the battle. The sight of human technology destroying the previously unstoppable alien ships had given people something they hadn't felt in years: hope. Admiral Hayes met them on the orbital station above Earth. His normally stern face was split by a wide grin. "You did it," he said, shaking Jack's hand firmly. "The Rekians have pulled back to Saturn's rings. They're calling for emergency talks with the Galactic Federation." Jack nodded. "And how is the Federation responding?" "For the first time, they're actually listening to us," Hayes replied. "They've agreed to a meeting on their central station. You and Dr. Grant will attend as Earth's representatives." Jack raised his eyebrows. "Me? I'm a soldier, not a diplomat." Hayes clapped him on the shoulder. "You're the face of Earth's new strength, Captain. The Federation needs to see that we're serious." 2 days later, Jack found himself on a Federation transport ship heading to the massive space station that served as the Galactic Federation's headquarters. Dr. Grant sat beside him, reviewing data from the battle on a tablet. "The gravitational lance performed even better than expected," she said. "The energy consumption was 12% lower than our models predicted." Jack glanced around to make sure no alien crew members were within earshot. "Have the automated shipyards activated?" Dr. Grant nodded. 4 are already operational. The first new ships will be ready in about 5 months. The Federation station was enormous, a spinning wheel nearly 20 miles across. Ships from dozens of alien species docked along its outer ring. Jack had never seen so many different types of vessels in one place. They were met at the docking bay by a small, green-skinned alien with large, compound eyes. He introduced himself as Zix, their Federation guide. "The Council is most interested in meeting you," Zix said, his translator making his high-pitched voice understandable. "You've caused quite a stir." He led them through wide corridors filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Many stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. Jack noticed that the looks weren't hostile. They were curious, even respectful. The council chamber was a vast, circular room with rising tiers of seats. Representatives from over 100 species filled the chamber. At the center was a raised platform where the High Council sat, 5 aliens representing the founding species of the Federation. Jack and Dr. Grant took their places at a small podium. Across from them, the Rekian delegation glared with barely contained fury. The lead council member, a tall, blue-skinned alien named Jortal, called the meeting to order. "We are here to discuss the recent incident in the Sol system," Jortal began. "The Rekian Confederacy has lodged a formal complaint against Earth for unprovoked attacks on their mining vessels." The Rekian ambassador stepped forward. Unlike the warriors Jack had seen, this one wore elaborate crystal ornaments that jingled when he moved. "These humans have violated galactic law by developing weapons of mass destruction," the Rekian hissed. They destroyed 2 of our peaceful mining ships without warning. Jack had to fight to keep his face neutral. Peaceful mining ships? After what they had done to Mars? Dr. Grant placed a calming hand on his arm before stepping forward herself. If I may address the Council, she said politely. Earth has developed defensive technology to protect its sovereign territory. The Rekian ships were extracting resources from Europa without permission. They had already destroyed 3 human outposts, killing over 5,000 civilians. She tapped her tablet, and the large screens around the chamber displayed recordings of the Rekian attack on Mars. The council members murmured as they watched the colony dome shatter. The Rekians declared our system a resource extraction zone without consultation or agreement, Dr. Grant continued. When we protested through proper channels, we were ignored. The Rekian ambassador sneered. Your primitive species has no right to claim an entire system. You barely use these resources yourselves. That is not for you to decide, Jack said, stepping forward. The Sol system is our home. We have every right to defend it. Jortal raised a hand for silence. The technology your ship displayed, it should not be possible for a Tier 3 species to develop such weapons. How did you acquire this technology? Dr. Grant smiled slightly. We developed it ourselves. Contrary to what the Rekians believe, humans are not as primitive as we've been categorized. Impossible, the Rekian ambassador shouted. They must have stolen it from a more advanced species. I assure you, Dr. Grant replied calmly. The gravitational manipulation technology on the Defiance is entirely of human origin. Our quantum theories predated first contact. While you were dismissing our science as primitive, we were simply approaching the same problems from a different angle. The council members exchanged glances. Jack could see they were disturbed by this information. A new voice spoke from the upper tiers. If what they say is true, perhaps we have underestimated the humans. Jack looked up to see a crystalline being, similar to the Rekians but with a blue hue instead of black. This was a Trell, he realized, one of the Federation's founding species and the Rekians' ancient rivals. The Trell representative floated down to the council floor. I move that we reclassify humanity as a Tier 2 species immediately, with potential elevation to Tier 1 pending further evaluation. The chamber erupted in voices. The Rekian delegation was shouting now, their crystal ornaments jangling wildly. Jack exchanged a look with Dr. Grant. This was unexpected. Jortal called. For order. This is highly irregular, he said. Species reclassification usually takes years of evaluation. These are irregular circumstances, the Trell countered. A species that can develop gravitational manipulation technology independently, clearly, deserves re-evaluation. After much debate, the council voted. To Jack's surprise, the motion passed. Earth was officially recognized as a Tier 2 civilization, with all the rights and protections that entailed. As they left the chamber, the Trell representative approached them. That was most impressive, he said. I would be interested in learning more about your gravitational technology. Dr. Grant smiled politely. Perhaps when relations are more established. For now, we're focused on securing our system. The Trell nodded. Of course, but remember, humans, the Rekians do not forget slights. They will seek revenge for this humiliation. Let them try, Jack said quietly. We'll be ready. On the return journey to Earth, Jack stared out at the stars. Do you think they believed us? That we developed the technology ourselves? Dr. Grant shrugged. Some did. Others are suspicious. But it doesn't really matter. What matters is that they respect us now. Jack nodded. And fear us a little too. Fear and respect often go hand in hand, Dr. Grant replied. Especially in galactic politics. When they arrived back on Earth, Admiral Hayes was waiting with news. The Rekians have completely withdrawn from our system, he said. And the automated shipyards are ahead of schedule. We'll have 3 more Defiance-class ships within 4 months. Good, Jack said. Because I don't think this is over. Not by a long shot. He looked at the blue planet below them, peaceful for now. Humanity had won its first victory. But the real battle for their place in the galaxy was just beginning. 3 months passed. Earth began to rebuild its damaged colonies. With the Rekians gone, mining operations resumed on Mars and Europa. The fear that had gripped humanity for years started to fade. But Jack Porter couldn't relax. He spent most of his time on the Defiance, running drills and preparing his crew for the fight he knew was coming. Dr. Grant had returned to her underwater lab, working on improvements to the Singularity Drive. 4 more ships were now under construction in the hidden shipyards throughout the solar system. The first, the USS Intrepid, was nearly complete. Jack was on the bridge when the alert came in. Lieutenant Johnson looked up from her console with a grim expression. "Captain, we're detecting multiple ships entering the system near Pluto. They're moving fast." Jack moved to the tactical display. "Rekians?" Johnson nodded. 15 ships, much larger than the mining vessels we encountered before. Jack's jaw tightened. "Battle fleet. They're not here to talk." He opened a channel to Earth Command. Admiral Hayes appeared on screen, already looking concerned. "You're seeing this?" Jack asked. Hayes nodded. "We are. The Intrepid can launch in 12 hours, but it won't be fully tested." "We don't have 12 hours, Jack replied. "At their current speed, the Rekian fleet will reach Earth in 10. Hayes was silent for a moment. "Can the Defiance hold them off?" Jack studied the tactical data. 15 warships against 1. The odds weren't good, but the Defiance had surprised the Rekians once before. "We'll try," he said simply. "Have the planetary defense systems ready." He closed the channel and turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Set course to intercept at Neptune's orbit." The Defiance raced outward from Earth, its Singularity Drive pushing it faster than any human ship had gone before. They reached Neptune in just under an hour. The massive blue planet loomed large on the view screen. "Cloaking systems engaged," reported Engineer Morrison. "They won't see us coming." Jack nodded. "Hold position here. Let's see what we're dealing with." They didn't have to wait long. The Rekian fleet appeared, 15 ships in a tight formation. In the center was a massive vessel 3 times the size of the others. "That's the Dominance," Jack said, recognizing the ship from intelligence briefings. "The flagship of the Rekian High Command." Lieutenant Bennett whistled. "It's huge." "Size isn't everything," Jack replied. "Remember, their crystalline technology is vulnerable to gravitational weapons. We have the advantage there." He studied the tactical display. A direct confrontation would be suicide. But if they could pick off a few ships, disrupt their formation. "Here's the plan," Jack said. "We'll target the escorts first. Quick strikes, then cloak and reposition. We need to draw them away from Earth, give the Intrepid time to launch." His crew nodded, their faces tense but determined. "Bring us in close to the rightmost escort," Jack ordered. Weapons ready, the Defiance glided silently through space, invisible to the Rekian sensors. They positioned themselves just 500 meters from the nearest Rekian warship. "Disengage, cloak. Fire immediately." The Defiance shimmered into view. The gravitational lance fired before the Rekians could react. The escort ship imploded, its crystalline structure collapsing under the immense gravitational pressure. Cloak and reposition. The Defiance vanished again, moving quickly to another position as the Rekian fleet erupted in chaos. Alarm signals flashed between the ships as they tried to locate the threat. The tactic worked 3 more times. 3 more Rekian escorts destroyed, their remains floating in space. But the 4th time, the Rekians were ready. As the Defiance decloaked to fire, the Rekian ships released a cloud of metallic particles into space around them. When the gravitational lance fired, the particles revealed the distortion in space, showing the direction of the attack. "They've adapted," Johnson said with alarm. "They're tracking the gravitational distortion." Before they could recloak, multiple Rekian weapons locked onto the Defiance. Crystalline energy beams lanced out, slamming into the ship's shields. "Shields holding at 80%, Morrison reported. "But we can't take many more hits like that." Jack grimaced. "Cloak and withdraw. We need a new approach." The Defiance retreated, moving to the far side of Neptune to regroup. The damage wasn't severe, but it was clear their surprise advantage was gone. They're continuing toward Earth, Johnson reported. ETA 7 hours. Jack contacted Earth again. Admiral, the surprise attack worked initially, but they've adapted. We took out 4 escorts, but the main fleet is still intact and heading your way. Hayes looked grim. The Intrepid is being rushed to launch. It should be ready in 6 hours. But even with 2 ships, it won't be enough. Jack finished for him. We need something else. Dr. Grant's face appeared on a second screen. Captain Porter, I've been analyzing the Rekian adaptation to our weapon. They're using metallic particles to visualize the gravitational field. But what if we use that against them? Jack leaned forward. I'm listening. The Singularity Core doesn't just power the lance, she explained. It creates a controlled gravitational field around the entire ship. If we modify that field, expand it outward, we could create a massive gravitational wave, Jack realized. Like a tsunami in space. Dr. Grant nodded. Exactly. It would affect everything in its path, but, she hesitated. It would drain the core. You'd be powerless for at least 30 minutes afterward. Jack considered this. A desperate move, but they were in a desperate situation. Send me the modifications, he decided. We'll position ourselves between the fleet and Earth. If this works, we'll cripple them. If not, he didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone knew what was at stake. The next 6 hours were a flurry of activity. Engineer Morrison and his team worked frantically to modify the Singularity Core based on Dr. Grant's specifications. The rest of the crew prepared for what might be their final battle. Jack received word that the Intrepid had launched, crewed, by volunteers who knew they were heading into a desperate fight. Captain Eric Daniels, an old friend of Jack's, was in command. The Defiance positioned itself just beyond Earth's moon, directly in the path of the oncoming Rekian fleet. The Intrepid took up position nearby. Modifications complete. Morrison reported. The core is ready, but sir, we'll only get one shot at this. Jack nodded. Make it count. The Rekian fleet appeared, slowing as they approached Earth. The massive Dominance led the way, its weapon systems glowing as they charged. They're preparing to fire on Earth directly, Johnson said, her voice tight with anger. Jack opened a channel to the Intrepid. Captain Daniels, stay back. We're going to try something. If it fails, it's up to you. Daniels nodded on the screen. Understood. Good luck. Jack took a deep breath and gave the order. Engage the gravitational wave. The Singularity Core at the heart of the Defiance pulsed. The ship shuddered as a massive wave of gravitational force exploded outward in a sphere. It was invisible, but its effects were not. As the wave reached the Rekian fleet, their ships began to twist and bend. The crystalline structures that made them so beautiful became their weakness, cracking and shattering under the shifting gravitational forces. 7 ships broke apart entirely. 5 more, including the Dominance, suffered severe damage, their hulls cracking, atmosphere venting into space. On the Defiance, systems shut down as the core went dormant. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red. It worked, Johnson whispered, watching the devastation on the emergency backup screen. Jack allowed himself a small smile. Send a message to the remaining Rekian ships. Tell them that if they don't retreat immediately, the next wave will be stronger. It was a bluff. The Defiance was powerless, its core drained. But the Rekians didn't know that. The 3 undamaged Rekian ships quickly gathered their damaged comrades and began to retreat. The Dominance, once proud and unstoppable, limped away with massive cracks running through its hull. Earth was safe. For now. 1 year had passed since the battle near Earth's moon. The solar system had changed dramatically. Humanity was no longer a minor player in galactic affairs. Earth now had a fleet of 12 Defiance-class ships, with more under construction. The automated shipyards hidden throughout the system worked day and night. Jack Porter stood on the observation deck of Ceres Station, looking out at the newest vessel in Earth's fleet. Unlike the black, predatory shape of the Defiance and its sister warships, this new ship was sleek and silver, with graceful lines that reflected the sunlight. "She's beautiful," said Dr. Grant, joining him at the window. "Very different from your ship," Jack nodded. "The USS Explorer, the first of our science vessels. Not a weapon, but a bridge," Dr. Grant said with satisfaction. "This is what I always hoped we would build, once we were safe." The Explorer was designed for deep space, travel and diplomatic missions. Its singularity drive was even more powerful than the Defiance's, capable of taking humanity beyond their solar system for the first time. Admiral Hayes approached them, his uniform now adorned with additional medals from a grateful Earth government. "13, crew is ready," Hayes said. "They're waiting for you in the main hall." Jack followed Hayes and Dr. Grant through the station to a large gathering space where hundreds of people stood. Some wore the black uniforms of the Defense Fleet, others the silver uniforms of the new Exploration Corps. At the front of the room stood Captain Sam Rodriguez, who would command the Explorer on its maiden voyage. Hayes nodded to Jack, who stepped forward to address the crowd. "1 year ago," Jack began, "humanity was considered untouchable in the worst way possible. We were beneath notice except when others wanted to take what was ours. Today, we are untouchable in a very different sense." He gestured to the viewports, where the Explorer gleamed. "This ship represents the next chapter in our story. We defended ourselves when we had to. We showed the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated. But that was never the end goal. We didn't develop this technology just to build weapons. We did it to secure our place among the stars." The crowd applauded. Jack saw pride on their faces, but not arrogance. That was good. Arrogance had been the Rekians' downfall. After the ceremony, Jack found himself alone with Captain Rodriguez on the observation deck. "Any advice before we depart?" Rodriguez asked. Jack considered the question. "Remember that you're representing all of humanity out there. Every species you meet will judge us by your actions." Rodriguez nodded seriously. "I understand the responsibility. But also remember to be human," Jack added with a smile. "Our different way of thinking, our adaptability, our creativity, those are our greatest strengths. Don't try to act like the other species. Be proudly human." Later that day, Jack watched from the bridge of the Defiance as the Explorer departed on its mission to visit the homeworlds of the Federation's founding species. It was a goodwill tour, but also a subtle reminder of humanity's new capabilities. Setting. "Course for Earth, sir?" Lieutenant Johnson asked. Jack shook his head. "Not yet. We have a meeting first." The Defiance traveled to a remote area near Pluto's orbit. There, waiting at the agreed coordinates, was a sleek blue ship, unlike any Jack had seen before. It was a Trell vessel. "They're hailing us," Johnson reported. "On screen," Jack ordered. The crystalline face of Ambassador Zelthor of the Trell Collective appeared. "Captain Porter," the Trell greeted him. "Thank you for meeting me in such a remote location." Jack nodded. "You said it was important." "It is." The ambassador's crystalline features shifted in what Jack had learned was a sign of concern. "The Rekians have not accepted their defeat. They are building new ships with technology designed specifically to counter your gravitational weapons. This wasn't surprising, but it was concerning." "How did you come by this information?" "The Trell and Rekians share ancestors," Zelthor explained. "Many of my people still have contacts within their empire. What concerns me is not just their military buildup, but their political maneuvering within the Federation. They are trying to form an alliance against Earth." Jack frowned. "On what grounds?" "Fear," the ambassador said simply. "Your rapid advancement frightens many species. The Rekians are playing on that fear, suggesting that humans might soon try to dominate the galaxy." Jack found this ironic, coming from the Rekians. "What do you suggest?" "An alliance of our own," Zelthor replied. "The Trell have always respected species that think differently. Your approach to physics has already helped our scientists develop new theories. We believe an exchange of knowledge would benefit both Our peoples. Jack considered this. An alliance with one of the Federation's founding species would strengthen Earth's position considerably. But he needed to be careful. "I'll take your proposal to my government," he said. "But I should warn you. We won't share our singularity technology directly, not yet." The Trell ambassador's features shifted in what might have been a smile. "Caution is wise. We wouldn't expect anything less." After the meeting, Jack set course for Earth. As the Defiance traveled through the solar system, he saw signs of humanity's resurgence everywhere. The Mars colony was being rebuilt, larger and stronger than before. Mining operations around Saturn's rings produced resources for the growing fleet. On Earth itself, new cities reached toward the sky. Upon landing, Jack was summoned to a meeting with the United Earth government. President Laura Chen greeted him warmly. "Captain Porter, perfect timing. We were just discussing the future of Project Nemesis." Around the table sat Admiral Hayes, Dr. Grant, and several government officials Jack didn't recognize. "The Explorer's mission is just the beginning," President Chen continued. "We're planning to establish our first colony outside the solar system. The planet Kepler 442b has been surveyed and found suitable for human life." Jack raised his eyebrows. "That's ambitious." "The universe is vast," Chen replied. "And now we have the means to explore it properly." Jack shared the Trell ambassador's warning and offer of alliance. The room grew serious as they discussed the implications. "We knew the Rekians wouldn't give up easily," Hayes said. "But an alliance with the Trell would change the equation significantly." "What about the other species that fear us?" Jack asked. "How do we address that?" Dr. Grant spoke up. "I have a proposal. We've been keeping our scientific advances to ourselves, seeing them as military secrets. What if we established an academy here on Earth? Invited scientists from friendly species to learn and exchange ideas?" President Chen looked intrigued. "Not sharing our most sensitive technology, but enough to show we want to contribute to galactic knowledge, not hoard it." "Exactly," Dr. Grant nodded. "We show them that humans want to be partners, not conquerors." The meeting continued late into the night as they planned Earth's future. When it finally ended, Jack found himself alone with Dr. Grant, walking through the gardens outside the government building. "Did you ever imagine this?" he asked her. "When you were working in that underwater lab, did you think we'd come this far, this fast?" Dr. Grant looked up at the stars. "I hoped we would survive. I never dared hope we would thrive like this." Jack followed her gaze to the night sky, where the first students of Earth's new galactic academy would soon arrive from distant worlds. "We're not untouchable anymore," he said quietly. "We're connected, part of something larger. But on our own terms," Dr. Grant added. "That makes all the difference." Above them, barely visible among the stars, the lights of orbital shipyards glinted. Earth was ready for whatever the galaxy might bring next.